So I want to share with you a cheeky little technique for decongesting your solos on fast upswing tunes and basically making things a little bit simpler. And this will give you a really good way to start a solo and build some tension before you start moving into playing lots and lots of notes. Especially if you don't have that many kind of eighth note lines that you can play at fast tempos over tunes. Having a place to start from, and even if you can, having a place to start from is a really, really good idea. I've also become more and more interested in exploring more and more rhythmic freedom at up tempos, because I feel like a lot of the time and I think many other guitarists have a tendency to play lots of this kind of stuff, where we go like it's all which is fine, but too many courses of that kind of stuff, and I think the audience starts to switch off, right? So this is an attempt to try and decongest things a bit and make things a bit simpler while keeping some of that, momentum which you kind of need to play on a fast or a faster tune. Okay, so very simply, I've sort of taken this idea of kind of like, if you ever played any kind of tunes like anything with a sort of vaguely Latin feel. I know it all gets mixed up in jazz, between like bossa and Cuban styles and everything else. But say, for instance, if you got like this kind of Montuno style figure going on in Nika's Dream, for instance. That seems to have quite an interesting rhythm. And I think very often we don't think of playing rhythms like that in fast swing feels. We kind of get, kind of hemmed in by them a little bit. And you can easily see how those simple sorts of ideas could be used to kind of create solos. I'm playing just over two chords here, by the way, for those who don't know Nika's Dream. It's just B flat minor and A flat minor, basically. So you can start playing things like... See what I mean? That kind of thing. Sounds really good to me, and it's almost like treating the notes of the chord as being some kind of percussion instrument, like a couple of notes of a cowbell or something, rather than necessarily thinking super scalically or anything. You're thinking, here's a couple of notes and I can bounce between these two. Classic examples in jazz might include things like, playing things like that. That's just using a B flat that stays there and then it's going up chromatically from D up to F, right? So I'm going to take a commonly played jazz standard, Just Friends, do it in G major. Sorry, I know F major is probably a better key, but I always play it in G. And what I'm interested in doing is finding roots through this song that are simple, just using, maybe a couple of notes. So for instance, if we take like the written chords of the song, C major 7th, C minor 7, F7, and then, we go to G, and then we go to B flat minor, E flat 7. Then you'll notice that there's sort of certain notes that kind of like stay the same. So for instance, we can play all of those chords with the G on top, can't we? It'd have to be G6 there, wouldn't it? Before I get any... just in case, in a likely chance that Jordan Clements was watching this video. Okay, and that E flat 7 can also have a G on top, right? And then it finally changes when we get you can have a A minor 7 there with the G on top and then F sharp, and then it sort of changes. But by then I think the changes are a little bit easier anyway. We can kind of just play in G. And then we get up to the A7 and then so on, right? So this is very closely related to my, what do I call it? I was calling it something. I had a name for it. What was it? Pathways. Yeah, that's it. So it's very similar to my Pathways idea. In fact, it's exactly the same thing. And we're just going to take, for instance, but then like for the C minor, E flat, right? C, E flat, G major, D works really nicely. E flat 7. Okay, that works beautifully. So we've got this kind of... And then A minor 7, fine. So we've got a sort of guide tone line, I suppose you could call it, through those chords. So then the way I would approach playing a solo on it, just at the start, is just to use those notes. Yeah, so I'm just kind of thinking about the really important notes, the sensitive notes. I've talked about this in other videos, and really using them as a resource for playing these almost like Montuno-like figures, these simple little rhythmic things. You can add a sixth in there as well for the first chord, or an A, which will then be different notes on different chords, or different intervals on different chords, but I mean, it's always an A. Just add that A in and it works on all the chords. So you can do that. And you might get a bit bored with that and sort of want to explore some other notes on those chords. So maybe. Sorry, my hand is drifting out of shot. Let me show you that again. C major, C minor 7th, maybe F7 if you want. G6 9. B flat minor 7. You can do that. You can drop down to an E flat 7 by using the G. Okay, so this kind of creates an interesting little figure as well. Or you know, one thing I like to do on Just Friends, it starts off in C major, C minor. You can drop down to B minor as a substitute for G, then B flat minor, A minor, and so on, right? So that also gives you a resource for having really simple little ideas. Okay, and you can add little chromatic things. So it's very much that kind of Montuno sort of feel that I'm kind of getting there, or at least aiming for. Now, obviously, if you just do that too much, you can get a little bit predictable. But it's a really good way of setting up a solo. And if you're a little bit intimidated by fast tunes, this could be a great jumping off point for developing more irregular and complicated ideas. I'll just show you how it works on the backing track anyway. Sorry, I'll just show you how it works on the backing track. Here we go. And so on, right? So you can hear how I can use then eighth note lines to kind of break it up a bit, and it stops it from getting too sort of samey. And you can sort of, obviously you can be a bit more sophisticated with it than that, but I'm just kind of giving you a basic sort of place to start, I guess. One really important thing is, if you'll notice that I'm keeping that sort of rhythmic complexity, which I'm sort of taking from a kind of Latin feel and putting it on top of the swing. These are like bossa or Brazilian rhythms almost. So basically, if you can come up with an interesting rhythm on, you know, no notes, and then you play maybe an interesting solo on one note, then this is the next step, and this will allow you to build up to more complex things. more advanced people might be interested in using this as a way of, kind of finding, you could take your comp that maybe has some kind of, contrary motion component to it, for instance. So you might start here and go, boom, 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 boom. And that could be nice, right? So if I'm using that as a soloing idea, start on the B, and then was it B natural, the C sharp, so let's try that with the backing track, see how it goes. Yeah, that's nice. So hopefully I'm kind of giving you some ideas of things you could do yourself. And I think it's like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with all that kind of cool. I think of that as boilerplate though. I just do that. My fingers just go because I practice that stuff loads of times. And part of the thing of improvisation is to try and come up with new things. And as soon as I start doing this, I kind of instantly start to think of two big heroes of mine, Jim Hall and Peter Bernstein, who seem to use this kind of approach to improvising quite a lot. But I hope you find it helpful, because I think like this is a completely different way of approaching up-tempo tunes, and it might maybe kind of give you some ideas for ways in which you can play up-tempo tunes without necessarily feeling you have to have all of the bop language in the world and all of the technique in the world. Thanks for watching. Hope you find that useful.